Alright, this video is about the Pythagorean theorem. And Pythagoras was a Greek, or allegedly a Greek. Some people debate whether he even existed or whether there was just a story about somebody. It turned into a legend. But anyway, the idea of the Pythagorean theorem, is that in a right triangle, the two legs, which are the sides that come and form this right angle right here, if you square them and add them together, you will get the hypotenuse squared. So what I mean by that, and what the Greeks did, and which has since been adopted mathematically across the world by all sorts of cultures, is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And a stands for a leg meaning this side right here, and this being a leg as well. So we could say that this is a and that this is b. So if we look at a right here, we'd say, okay, this is 3 squared, and b squared is 4 squared here. And in this particular question, what we're saying is it mathematically possible? So in other words, plug in the numbers for a, b, and c, and we wrote down 6 for c. So we're going to write that in right here. And if you do the math out here, 3 squared is 9, plus 4 squared is 16, and 6 squared is 36. Now if we add together 9 and 16, that does not equal 36. So therefore we can say that this is not mathematically possible to have a right triangle with legs of 3 and 4 and a hypotenuse of 6. Take a look at another example here. This particular one's asking us how far is the distance from the flagpole to the streetlight. So you can see this is going a roundabout way. If we were to go direct from one point to another, that's a straight line, how far would this be? Well, it would help to use that formula, a squared plus b squared equals c squared again. That's the Pythagorean theorem. And your a is going to be one of the legs, and your b is going to be the other leg. And I can tell that these are legs because the right angle is next to them. So both the legs form that right angle, and the hypotenuse will always be opposite of that right angle. So a is 5, b is 12. And now you just need to do the calculation. So 25 and 12 times 12 is 144. And if we add these two together, let's see, 144 and 20 gives 164, and 5 more would give 169. And so what the question is really asking now, it says something times something equals 169. So if you want to undo an exponent, you can always use a square root, and whatever you do to the right side of the equation, you have to do now to the left side. So c equals the square root of 169. Now I know 12 times 12 is too small because that's 144. If we try 13 times 13, this looks promising. And yeah, sure enough, the square root of 169 is 13. So we get this missing side right here is 13. And a great way of checking is just to note that the longest side has to be the hypotenuse. So if for some reason this number came out smaller than either of these numbers, something is wrong. And another thing worth noting, these legs, even though they are the shortest sides, the two legs added together, so leg plus leg, are always going to have to be bigger than the hypotenuse. So not squaring them or anything like that, but if we just take a look at 12 plus 5, that's 17. And we got 13 for the hypotenuse. Those numbers have to be bigger, and it is the case in this situation that they are bigger. So we knew that this number had to be between 12, which was too small, and 17, because that's the two legs added together, that's too big. So 13 is between 12 and 17. So I think that's a good, it's in the ballpark, right? We might have made a calculation error somewhere over here, but we know it's in the right vicinity of where we wanted the answer to be. Number 2 right here, let's see, it says we don't know what x is, and we know this is 10 and this is 15. And I invite you to pause the video, see if you can try this on your own, because I'm explaining it, but you want to make mistakes and learn that way. Hopefully you paused it right here. This is actually the right angle. So the side you're missing is the leg. So we've got a leg, and we've got a hypotenuse. We actually know the hypotenuse is 10 this time. And if you'll notice, something is a little bit funny here. This leg is 15, and this hypotenuse is 10. So I'm just going to say, mathematically, impossible. All right, one more. Again, pause it. See if you can do it on your own. Here's the right angle. So we know the leg. I'm just going to write A here. But that's a leg, and B is the leg. So we're trying to find C, or in this case, C is the same thing as X, whatever you want to call the variable. So we start with the formula for Pythagorean theorem and then plug in the numbers. And 15 times 15 is 225. That's one of those I've committed to memory because it comes up so often. And 20 times 20 is 400. And add those together, that'll be 625. And if you take the square root of both sides, you'll get C is the square root of 625. And it does end at a 5, so it's worth exploring. You know, it's 15 times 15 or 25 times 25. Let's try 25 times 25 because I know 20 times 20 is 400, so it's got to be bigger than, we already saw that 15 times 15 is 225. So it makes sense that maybe 25 would work here. And yeah, it looks like 25 is actually, this is a rational number. Sometimes these hypotenuses, they're going to come out to an irrational number, and that's okay to leave it as a square root, depending on what the answer calls for. It might say round to the nearest tenth. But this one says just find x, and it looks like we did. And I'm going to label this 25 feet.